As the clock ticks down to the new year, not all is merry and bright. Lurking in the shadows of celebration are tales that send shivers down the spine. Our video today brings you 3 chilling horror stories set in the uncanny warmth of New Year festivities. Brace yourself to explore the darker, colder side of this festive season with us. Number 1. Midnight Masquerade of Malevolence. As the clock approached the stroke of midnight, the anticipation in the exquisite mansion was reaching its zenith. Lavishly dressed guests masqueraded around, their identities veiled behind ornate masks and the spirit of the new year. It was a scene of grandeur and merriment, but beneath the facade of celebration lurked an indescribable malevolence, a chilling undercurrent of dread that was almost imperceptible to the untrained eye. This was the Midnight Masquerade. The night started typically enough. The sweet melody of laughter echoed through the ornate halls of the mansion. The flickering candlelight danced on the walls, creating a mesmerizing spectacle that added to the allure. But the beauty of the spectacle seems to be a stark contrast to the ominous dread that started to creep upon the guests. As the hours wound down, a heavy and peculiar gloom started to set in, making the villa feel colder and eerier. The light from the flickering candles became lesser, casting longer and darker shadows. A grim presence could be felt, wafting through the air, and the laughter in the grand hall was replaced with hushed whispers and nervous glances. It was in those whispers that the malicious wonder began to spread, a tale of the mansion's past, a tale of an affluent nobleman who, having lost his daughter on a New Year's Eve past, had made a pact with the darker forces. As the legend goes, every New Year's Eve, a masked figure presumed to be the grieving father roamed the premises, searching relentlessly for his lost daughter, his spectral presence casting a malevolent shadow across the festive gathering. As the clock crept closer to midnight, the guests' apprehensions reached a peak. The air around the mansion thickened into a dense, sinister fog, adding to the feeling of impending doom. Suddenly, a grim silhouette materialized in the grand hall, cutting a chilling figure in its masquerade attire. The room filled with a paralyzing terror as the figure slowly moved among them, each passing moment dialing up the dread. Then, as the clock struck 12, the figure stopped. The room went deathly silent, and the ghostly figure turned its gaze upon a young woman in the crowd. With an eerily familiar voice, the apparition murmured, "My daughter." As the spectral hand reached out to touch the young woman, she gasped, her final breath lingering in the icy air before collapsing onto the cold marble floor. The room erupted into screams and chaos, but amidst the fervor, the figure had vanished, leaving behind only a chilling memory of a New Year's celebration turned macabre. And so the night ended, not with the cheers of welcoming a new year, but with the chilling echoes of a spectral father's mournful lament and the memory of his touch of death. A terrifying tale of the mirth and menace that comes every new year in this lavish mansion. A chilling reminder that some clock strokes usher in more than just the coming year. The Midnight Masquerade indeed. Number 2, Cursed Countdown. As the old year drew to a close, a sense of burgeoning dread swept through the quiet town of Linton. The once bustive community was gripped by an inexplicable curse that seemed to be linked to the approaching new year. The chilling events had begun about a week prior. The grand clock that stood in the heart of the town square was always a focal point of Linton's New Year's Eve celebration. Villagers would gather, mingle, and cheer as they welcomed a new year with the final toll of the clock. That year, however, they would be met with a bone-chilling surprise. People started to notice a strange pattern in the town's activities. As the countdown to the new year began, any plans or actions scheduled to take place would curiously never come to pass. The townsfolk would wake up to find orders canceled, events postponed, and even daily businesses randomly closed down without any logical explanation. As the grand clock ticked away, the town seemed to be trapped in a cycle of unending abnormalities. With each passing day, not only did the bizarre incidents increase, but a feeling of deep-rooted fear began to grip the hearts of the Linton folks. They felt as though they were part of a macabre show, puppets dancing at the whim of some unseen entity. As the penultimate day before the new year dawned, the grand clock stopped abruptly, its final ring echoing ominously through the silent town. Time seemed to freeze, with the entire town stuck in eerie silence. The eeriness intensified on the final night as the sky turned an ominous blood red, heralding an atmosphere of menace and horror. With every ticking second, the feeling of dread deepened. However, the greatest shock came at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve. As the clock resumed its ticking, the town was plunged into a blackout. When the lights came back on, the town's residents were horrified to discover that their town was deserted, their friends and dark, empty houses staring back at them. It was as though everyone had simply vanished into thin air. In those initial moments of the new year, it wasn't joy or hope that greeted the small town of Linton. It was an icy chill of despair and an oppressive silence that carried the heavy weight of an eerie disappearance. As they grappled with the shocking twist of events, they were left to face an uncertain, eerie future, a cursed countdown that had ended in creepiest, heart-stopping manner. This was a New Year's Eve they were never going to forget. The memory of the midnight masquerade of malevolence would linger on, casting a shadow over the town for many New Years to come. Number 3. Uninvited visitor of the new year. As the year's final minutes dwindled away, our protagonist, Lenny, had chosen to celebrate a quiet New Year's Eve in the comfort of his small but cozy apartment. The only company he expected was the whimsical crackle of the fireplace, counting down to midnight with a chilled champagne bottle at his side. However, shortly before the clock struck 12, a frantic knocking echoed through his quaint dwelling, effectively vanquishing his peaceful solitude. Through the blurry peephole, Lenny could make out an apprehensive lone figure, almost hidden by the swirling snow outside. With a mixture of reluctance and curiosity, he invited the stranger in, hoping to provide temporary shelter from the harsh weather outside. Even though the visitor's ragged clothing and icy pale skin initially brought forth sympathy, Lenny soon sensed an air of triggeringly creeping menace surrounding the stranger. The newfound guest remained eerily silent, responding only in curt monosyllables while refusing to shed his thick scarf, which concealed the lower half of his face. His glistening, predatory eyes never left Lenny's, and he made no move to warm himself near the fireplace. Feeling trapped in his own abode and at a loss for what to do next, Lenny suggested they ring in the new year by watching the televised countdown. Hoping to lighten the atmosphere, he popped the champagne bottle, the cork's loud eruption opening the floodgates to an unexpected chain of terrifying events. When the clock struck midnight and the fireworks exploded on screen, the visitor tore away his scarf from his face, revealing a grotesque spectacle. His mouth was woven shut with spidery threads, but the captivating horror was not over. His chilling, spectral white eyes suddenly morphed into two abyss-like voids that twisted reality and sucked all the warmth from the room. A paralyzing fear clouded Lenny's mind, replacing the joyous atmosphere of the new year with a bone-rattling fear. With every subsequent heartbeat, the entity's presence in the room amplified incrementally. Each tick of the clock was like a death knell, echoing endlessly in the eerie silence of the infested apartment, now a house of horrors. The shock of the revelation robbed Lenny of his mobility. The stranger, or what was left of him, stood in the dimly lit room, his horrifyingly grotesque features now illuminated, altering the course of the new year for our unfortunate protagonist. Behind every minute that passed was another haunting reminder of an unknown dread, a dread that he had invited into his own home. The countdown had marked not just the beginning of a new year, but also an era of ominous shadow, a chilling testament to the malevolent, uninvited visitor of the new year. And there you have it, a chilling trio of tales to help ring in the new year quite differently. Whether it's a masquerade gone wrong, a timer ticking down to terror, or an unexpected guest causing chaos, we've got your horror cravings covered. If you enjoyed these stories, show us some love by hitting that subscribe button, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Until we meet again, sleep tight, and don't let the New Year's nightmares bite. Thank you for watching.